Welcome back to the deep dive, where we take the fire hose of information you sent us, filter out the noise, and deliver the essential, powerful insights you need to stay not just informed, but genuinely ahead of the curve.
Today, we are tackling a fundamental question. It's something facing, every digital enterprise from the smallest startup to the largest corporation.
And what's that?
How do you satisfy the internet's relentless, increasing demand for fresh, novel, and engaging digital content without completely exhausting the people who create it?
That pressure is inescapable. It really is. Whether you are building an app, a massive multiplayer world, a training simulation, or even just, a constant stream of marketing assets.
The expectation is constant.
Users now expect constant, often daily updates. If you fall silent for a week, they move on. That expectation puts creators under this relentless, almost impossible strain.
It creates what we call the content velocity treadmill. You are running just to stay in place, and the only way to genuinely advance is by fundamentally restructuring how content is produced.
So it's not about working harder.
No, it's an issue of scale and speed, and that's precisely why AI is moving from being, a helpful tool to an absolute necessity.
And our mission today is to zoom in on a platform that is, it's central to this entire content factory model, Roblox.
Right.
We dove into your recent news digest, specifically looking at their massive strategic push into AI integration. We are extracting the key insights about how they are using artificial intelligence to accelerate, redefine, and ultimately industrialize the content creation workflow.
And this deep dive is not just for game developers. That's a really important point to make right up front.
For sure.
Roblox, as a platform, is now essentially a massive laboratory for studying high-velocity, high-throughput digital asset creation.
A laboratory, I like that.
The challenges they are solving, boilerplate work, tool friction, scaling small teams, these are problems faced in architectural visualization, software development, industrial design, and media production globally.
So if you manage a team that builds anything complex in the digital realm, you need to be paying attention.
You need to understand the mechanics of this transformation.
Exactly. This is the industrial revolution of digital creation, and we're using one of the world's largest, most dynamic environments as our case study. So let's start by grounding ourselves in the source material's key observation, where Roblox stands today.
Okay, so the source makes a really critical distinction about the platform's current state.
Which is?
It notes that Roblox has evolved far beyond being a mere gaming hub. That label is it's antiquated.
Instead, it defines the platform as a dynamic production studio.
That phrase, dynamic production studio, is absolutely the conceptual key here. It signals a shift away from, a hobbyist platform and toward a professional environment that's designed for velocity.
It sounds more intentional.
It implies intent, infrastructure, and standardized processes.
Okay, so what does that mean practically for the teams that are actually operating within it?
It means we are looking at a system that's built for high throughput. The source specifies that this is an environment where small teams churn out fresh and engaging experiences regularly.
Right, so we're moving past the model of a single person in a garage working for 6 months.
Way past that. We are in the realm of consistent industrial scale efficiency.
Let's linger on that word, regularly. In the context of a massive digital platform, what does that velocity actually demand? Are we talking weekly updates, daily?
Often it means both. It's kind of staggering. In this ecosystem, regularly implies a velocity, a consistency, and a scale that are necessary just to maintain relevance among millions of active users who are constantly seeking novelty.
So for a big experience, what would that look like?
For a major experience, it might mean releasing significant new features or content packs weekly, and then minor bug fixes or maybe rotational content, like new items in a shop, daily.
Wow.
That requires a stable pipeline where content can be pushed through, tested, and released with minimal human interference.
So if you're a creator, your benchmark for success isn't simply, did I finish the game anymore?
Not at all.
It's, can I sustain a high-quality, high-velocity stream of content that keeps my user base engaged over the long term?
That's right. And if you are trying to sustain that pace using traditional solo developer models or even small traditional game studio pipelines, you hit a wall immediately.
You can't scale that way.
You cannot scale human effort linearly with user demand. The organizational strain becomes massive, it leads to burnout, and eventually a failure to meet user expectations.
So the only solution is?
The only solution is to apply machine efficiency to the non-creative portions of the workload.
And that, I think, is the key takeaway for you, the learner, regardless of your industry. If you are struggling with content velocity, and that could be in developing a SaaS product that needs weekly feature releases.
Or a marketing department trying to generate daily creative assets.
Exactly. Roblox is providing a blueprint for applying machine automation to solve the cost of speed.
The pressure is the same across the board. It really is. Whether you're generating textures for a virtual world or generating code snippets for a new microservice, the demand for rapid iteration is the driving force.
And that's what makes AI not just a nice-to-have,
but an essential component of the infrastructure, for sure.
Which brings us neatly to the specific pain points Roblox identified. Why did this strategic shift, this deep integration of AI, become fundamentally necessary to maintain the pace of a dynamic production studio?
Well, when you scale up output expectations for small teams, you amplify every little inefficiency. Our source identifies two major types of friction that bog developers down.
And these are common problems, right? Not just in gaming.
Oh, they're common across nearly all digital production pipelines.
Okay, so what's the first hurdle?
The first hurdle is the need to streamline repetitive production tasks. The source's phrasing here is spot on. Developers are getting bogged down by mundane processes.
Bogged down. I think every creator feels that.
Let's spend some time analyzing what those mundane processes actually entail in a sophisticated 3D digital content environment. We're talking about necessary low-value maintenance.
The grunt work.
Exactly. The human creative mind should be focused on the conceptual elements, the story, the surprise, the unique visual language. That's the goal.
But the reality is that the conceptual work is often just a fraction of the total effort.
A tiny fraction. Take asset preparation, for instance. A developer might spend a day designing a really unique, beautiful 3D model of a futuristic gun in external software like Blender.
Okay, that's the fun part, the high-value creative work.
That's the spark, but now the mundane work begins.
And what does that mundane work actually look like? Walk us through it.
Okay, so first, you have to ensure the polygon count is optimized. If the model is too complex, it kills performance, especially on mobile devices.
Which is a huge part of the user base.
A massive part. So manually reducing and optimizing meshes, often by generating multiple levels of detail, or LODs, is tedious, mathematical, and time-consuming work that requires specific, non-creative attention to detail.
Wait, explain LODs quickly for the listener. What is that?
Of course, LODs are essential for performance. If you have a detailed model, you don't want the user's computer rendering every single polygon when that object is a mile away.
It's just wasted processing power.
Total waste. So you manually create 3 or 4 copies of the same model. One high detail version for when the user is standing next to it, a medium detail version for a middle distance, and a very simple blocky version for when it's far away.
And a human developer has to spend time creating and configuring all those versions and the transitions between them.
Yep. It's absolutely essential, but it is not creative. It's pure technical maintenance.
I see. So the AI's job would be to automatically recognize the complexity of the original model, understand the target performance metrics, and just generate those multiple optimized versions instantly.
Precisely. That's already saving hours per asset. But it gets worse.
Oh, there's more.
There's always more. Think about lighting and texturing. You don't just apply a texture. You often have to bake the lighting onto the texture map, a process called light baking, so shadows and reflections look realistic without crushing the frame rate.
And that sounds complicated.
It requires meticulous configuration, ensuring the texture scale is right, ensuring the light maps align, and rebaking every single time you move a light source even slightly.
That sounds like a constant manual synchronization effort that just, it sucks up cognitive energy.
It does. It absolutely does. And finally, there's resource fetching and boilerplate code.
Okay.
Every asset needs to be correctly tagged, named, and integrated into the game's resource management system so the engine can find and load it instantly.
And boilerplate is just writing the same little bits of code over and over.
Exactly. Writing the same 3 lines of code or setting up the same file architecture for every single chair, table, or wall segment, that's boilerplate. It's necessary, but it's using an expensive human mind for organizational busy work.
So the source correctly identifies that developers are spending their most valuable hours acting as slow, expensive formatting tools.
That's the perfect summary of the problem.
Okay, so that covers the internal friction, the self-inflicted wounds of repetitive, necessary labor. But the source identifies a second and maybe even more insidious hurdle.
It does.
The friction encountered when transitioning outputs between various tools.
This is a classic problem in modern digital production, and it speaks directly to the reality of complex multi-tool pipelines.
Because even the most advanced platform, like Roblox Studio, isn't a one-stop shop for everything. You can't do it all in one place.
Correct. Professional developers rely on specialized, best-in-class software for specific tasks. For sculpting a character, they'll use ZBrush. For procedural textures, they might use something like Substance Painter. For animation, Maya.
And each of these tools speaks a slightly different language.
A completely different language. They use different coordinate systems, generate files in specific formats, the whole 9 yards.
So when a developer finishes sculpting a fantastic character in ZBrush, they then have to export it, say, as an OBJ or FBX file, and bring it into Roblox Studio.
And that's where the friction lives. That's the moment of pain. The output from ZBrush or Maya rarely works perfectly out of the box in the target environment.
What kind of things go wrong?
Oh, all sorts of things. Maybe the scale is off by a factor of 10, so the character appears microscopic. Maybe the texture maps don't align because the UV coordinates were flipped during export.
That sounds like a nightmare to debug.
Or, critically, the animation rigging needs to be completely re-optimized or reformatted to work with Roblox's unique skeletal system.
It reminds me of the analogy we used before. Trying to plug an appliance designed for one country's socket into another country's wall without the right adapter.
Yes.
Except here, you often have to manually rewire the adapter every single time you play something in.
That is a perfect analogy. This manual synchronization and reformatting slows development dramatically. Every technical handoff is a high-risk point of failure.
So if the goal is regularly churning out fresh experiences,
This tool friction is the ultimate break. You simply cannot maintain velocity if you spend half your week troubleshooting why a mesh exported from tool A is being rejected or distorted by engine B.
I can just hear the sigh of relief from developers when they read that Roblox is addressing this head-on.
Oh, for sure.
The solution, as the source confirms, is a significant, deep integration of AI directly into the core development environment.
Yes. They are positioning this as a game changer. And you know what? That term is fully justified. This isn't just a minor feature, it is a foundational change to the developer contract.
The core goals are straightforward, but they're immense in scope. Accelerate game creation and enhance efficiency.
And the mechanism is simple to state, but incredibly complex to execute, automating the repetitive, friction-inducing tasks we just spent all that time detailing. So if the AI handles the mundane, what does the human focus on? The source makes the explicit promise that this allows developers to focus more on creativity and innovation.
And that's a philosophical shift.
It really is.
It truly is. We're watching the practical application of the Pareto principle flip in digital production.
Yeah.
We need to be clear about the prior reality. In a complex 3D pipeline, the ratio of time spent was often, well, it was punishing.
As we agreed, maybe 20% on the high-value conceptual work, the initial spark, the novel idea.
And 80% on the necessary low-value work, formatting, light baking, mesh optimization, troubleshooting export failures, and writing boilerplate code.
That 80% was a tax on imagination.
It was the technical debt of building high-fidelity worlds. The AI integration aims to reduce that 80% to maybe 5% or 10%.
That's a huge change.
By automating the 7 days spent on pipeline maintenance, you recapture that time and push the developer's energy back toward the high-value conceptual design. It is a calculated strategic move to maximize the return on human imagination. Wait, I have to challenge this premise slightly, though. If the AI handles the technical 80%, doesn't that risk making the creator less technically skilled? Creating a reliance on the AI that makes them less able to troubleshoot when the system inevitably fails.
That is an excellent probing question. It's one that every industry is grappling with right now.
So what's the answer?
The shift is not about de-skilling, but about re-skilling. The reliance shifts from knowing the rote manual steps of asset formatting to knowing how to direct the machine effectively.
And how to solve problems it can't.
And how to conceptualize problems outside the machine's current capabilities. If the AI fails to optimize a mesh correctly, the human architect must still understand why the mesh is failing. They just didn't have to spend 5 hours doing the optimization themselves.
So the human is moving from the role of laborer or technician to that of the architect and the quality control expert managing the automated infrastructure.
Exactly. The AI becomes the ultra-efficient, highly specialized technical laborer, and the human is the visionary, the one injecting the intentional emotional resonance and the narrative surprise.
That's a crucial distinction.
It's crucial for all technical teams to internalize. When you're evaluating an AI tool, you have to ask, Is this tool automating something that is necessary but low value, thereby freeing up our experts to do high-value conceptual work?
That is where the exponential efficiency gain lies.
That's it.
Okay, let's transition then. How does this integration actually make the production pipeline faster and smoother, specifically addressing those tool friction points?
The measurable benefit is the speed of the production timeline. The integration speeds up the production timeline, which has immediate tangible results beyond just saving developer hours.
Give us a concrete example. What does a faster production timeline feel like to a small development team?
Well, let's talk about prototyping. A developer might have a revolutionary, weird idea for a new game mechanic, say, a unique gravity-defying system. Traditionally, setting up the basic environment, generating the necessary placeholder assets, coding the boilerplate physics interactions, just getting a minimal viable version ready for testing could take days.
And that friction discourages experimentation.
Of course it does, because if the experiment fails, you've wasted days of expensive labor.
Right.
But if AI can generate the environment, optimize the assets, and write the rudimentary scripts instantly through simple text prompts, say, create a low-gravity forest environment with 5 interactive physics objects, the developer can test that core idea in hours instead of days.
Less friction equals more experiments.
Exponentially more experiments, and more experiments lead directly to better, more innovative final products. You fail faster, and therefore you succeed faster.
And this directly addresses the second friction point we talked about, ensuring smoother transitions of assets and outputs within the development pipeline. The AI here is acting as a sophisticated translator, right?
It's more than a translator. I'd call it an orchestrator and a harmonizer.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Imagine importing that complex character mess we discussed earlier, the one built in ZBrush. The AI doesn't just accept the file. It recognizes the geometry. It understands the destination environment Roblox Studio, and it automatically performs a suite of services.
Services like polycount optimization and automatic LOD generation, which we talked about.
Yes, those, but also crucial pipeline harmonization tasks. It might adjust the asset's internal coordinate system to match Roblox Studio's standard.
Ah, so no more microscopic characters.
Hopefully not. It might automatically apply standard materials and ensure the texture maps are correctly linked and scaled. And critically, it could automatically generate the necessary collision meshes.
Wait, automatically generating collision meshes? That's huge.
It is huge. Collision meshes, the simplified, invisible geometry that tells the game engine where the player can walk and where they stop, have historically been a massive manual headache.
So tedious.
If the AI can handle the non-creative computational task of calculating that simplified mesh based on the visual model, it removes days of tedious configuration work.
So the AI is basically bridging the technical communication gap between all these disparate tools. It unifies the development environment.
That's right. It reduces the technical barriers to execution.
It's like moving from assembly language coding to a high-level language like Python, where you stop worrying about memory management and start focusing purely on the logic.
That's the perfect analogy. The AI becomes the stable, performant infrastructure itself. It removes the need for that highly specialized, often tedious technical knowledge required just to make 2 pieces of software talk to each other.
It democratizes the ability to execute a complex creative vision.
It absolutely does.
And that reduction in technical drag is especially transformative for small teams. Right?
Oh, for small teams, it's a game changer. If a team of 3 people no longer needs one person dedicated solely to pipeline maintenance and formatting, they have, in effect, instantly tripled their capacity for pure conceptual design and creativity.
That's a powerful way to think about it.
The crucial implication here is that the human team is elevated. They're in a management role over the idea and the vision, rather than a management role over the data format and the technical standards.
The complexity of execution is handled by the machine.
Right, freeing the human to focus on the truly unique elements, the narrative, the intentional pacing, the sheer novelty of it all.
Which brings us back to the most critical outcome for creators: monetization. Ultimately, platforms like Roblox are only successful if the creators can build profitable businesses on them.
That's the bottom line.
And the source emphasizes that this efficiency enables creators to monetize their creations more effectively.
This is where the rubber meets the road, where technological improvement translates directly into better business viability. The efficiency created by AI doesn't just feel good. It directly impacts key business metrics.
Okay, so how does this efficiency translate directly into better monetization for the developer?
Let's break down 2 core ways, starting with time to market.
Speed to market.
Exactly. In the digital space, trends are currency. If a major cultural event or a popular new movie emerges, and I can prototype, build, and release a relevant, engaging experience that taps into that trend in days instead of weeks,
You capture the demand when it's peaking.
you capture the zeitgeist. The faster you are, the larger slice of that zeitgeist and the associated revenue you capture. Speed is a competitive advantage in a trend-driven market.
So a platform that enables days-long development cycles instead of weeks-long ones maximizes the revenue window for its creators.
Right. And the second key driver is the higher frequency of releases, which links directly to recurrent revenue models.
The engine of the modern digital economy.
It really is. Recurrent revenue models, subscriptions, battle passes, microtransactions, they rely entirely on sustained engagement. You don't make money from a player buying the game once. You make money from them logging in daily or weekly.
What keeps them logging in?
Fresh content?
Always.
Exactly. If a user knows that the experience they love gets updated weekly with fresh content, not just minor bug fixes, but actual new maps, assets, characters, or mechanics, they stay engaged.
And higher frequency drives higher retention.
Which in turn drives spending on microtransactions. The AI, by enabling this frequency, acts as the primary catalyst for audience retention and spending.
So the platform isn't just speeding up creation for speed's sake. It's actively engineering an ecosystem where the creator's effort-to-reward ratio is significantly more favorable.
That's a great way to put it. They are taking the technical risk out of the profitability equation.
The source material encapsulates this beautifully by saying the platform empowers creators to unleash their full potential.
And the implication there is so powerful, the constraints preventing them from achieving their full potential weren't creative limitations.
They were technical and time-based limited.
Precisely. Remove the technical drag, and the true creative and financial potential is unlocked.
And this shift guarantees the long-term health of the entire creator ecosystem. If it's easier and more profitable to build on Roblox than on a competitor platform, more talented people will choose it.
And you get a virtuous cycle of innovation, high velocity, and monetization.
Which means this movement extends far beyond a single platform. We have to step back and view this strategic AI adoption as part of a seismic shift shaping the entire future of digital content.
It's much bigger than just Roblox.
The source states clearly that Roblox's move underscores its commitment to pushing the boundaries of game development. This isn't just incremental improvement. This is setting a new industry standard.
It is. And if we look at the history of technology, true technological breakthroughs don't just make existing processes faster. They don't just put a faster horse on the road.
They redefine the operating environment entirely.
They invent the car. Think about the move from command line interfaces to graphical user interfaces. Before the GUO, creating a document required specific, memorized code.
Right. You had to be a specialist.
Once the GUI became standard, the entire boundary of what document creation meant shifted from remembering syntax to visualizing structure.
And now, the boundary being pushed is the cognitive load required for production.
Yes.
They are essentially saying that the friction we just detailed, the mesh optimization, the light baking, the tool synchronization, that should no longer be a human cognitive problem. It should be an automated infrastructure problem.
That's the magnitude of the change. This brings us to the big picture conclusion provided by the source, that this is a testament to the transformative power of AI in shaping the future of digital content creation.
It's an unavoidable truth at this point.
It is.
When the most challenging, time-consuming parts of production are outsourced to the machine, the technical craft, the entire definition of the human creator's role changes.
And this raises the central critical thinking question that every creator, manager, or business leader needs to be grappling with right now.
Which is?
What is the true value proposition of the human creator when the technical execution is handled by the machine?
The answer the source implies is a shift purely toward innovation and creativity.
But that requires a different skill set and a different mindset. You're
Right.
moving from a mindset of, I must know how to execute this task efficiently and perfectly, too.
Two, I must know how to conceptualize something entirely new that the machine can then execute.
Exactly. If the AI handles the lighting, the collision meshes, the asset formatting, and the boilerplate code, the human must focus on things the AI cannot yet replicate in a meaningful way.
Like what?
Narrative surprise, intentional emotional pacing, abstract design, or entirely new game mechanics that require non-linear, unpredictable thought.
I often think about the composer analogy here. The AI is becoming this incredible orchestra that's capable of playing any music perfectly.
A perfect technical instrument.
But it still requires the human composer to write a score that evokes a specific complex emotion. The technical capacity of the instrument is infinite, but the emotional vision must still be human.
Absolutely. The value proposition of the human is shifting fundamentally away from technical craft mastery and toward conceptual and emotional depth.
So if you are a developer listening to this,
Your future portfolio must showcase not just your technical proficiency, which the AI can handle, but your unique, powerful, creative vision. You must be the visionary, the person who asks, what if we did this in a way no one has ever conceived?
this has been a powerful, deeply analyzed synthesis of your source material. We've established that Roblox is making this move to cope with relentless content demand,
Right.
solving both internal production friction, that repetitive labor, and external tool friction, the interoperability hell.
And ultimately, they are making their creators more monetarily successful by drastically speeding up the time between inspiration and market release.
We covered the entire optimization loop. The key gains for developers are clear: the ability to engage in focused creativity,
A significant reduction in soul-crushing, repetitive labor.
and a direct increase in monetization efficiency driven by accelerated market cycles.
That's the whole package.
But let's end with that provocative thought for you, the learner. Because the greatest impact of this shift might not be in what AI automates, but in what it allows humans to attempt next.
That's where it gets really exciting. If AI has successfully automated away the friction and the mundane technical constraints associated with digital creation, we have to ask, what fundamental limitations on creative ambition have now been completely lifted?
What previously impossible scale can now be tackled?
Exactly. We've seen developers struggle for years to deliver truly massive interconnected worlds or deeply personalized experiences because the sheer volume of assets, transitions, and formatting required was just, it was overwhelming.
It was physically too much repetitive work to build quickly.
It was. But now that the technical scaffolding is being removed, we might see entirely new types of experiences that define the next generation of digital content.
What do you think of?
Perhaps digital worlds that are truly vast, procedurally generated on the fly, customized uniquely for every single user, or so interconnected and deep that they feel truly infinite in scope.
When the cost of iteration approaches zero.
The possibilities expand exponentially.
That means the constraints are no longer technical or financial. They're purely conceptual. The only thing limiting the new reality is the depth and scale of the human imagination.
That is the new frontier. The tool is ready. What revolutionary, friction-free reality will you, the visionary, now build of it?
That is a fascinating thought to leave on. Thank you for diving deep with us today.
Keep exploring and stay curious about how these efficiency tools are redefining creativity in your own professional pursuits.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.